Hey guys, thanks for checking out this video. Don't run, don't hide, don't be shy. Just like, comment, and please subscribe.
I mean, dealing with the stress, I mean, dealing with the pain. Trying to find a way.
What's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of the TD World. I'm your host, Tony Dawkins, and you know what? I just wanted to thank you and show a little bit of some appreciation because, you know, you could be anywhere. You could be hanging with your girl or lack thereof. You could be beating your meat. You could be making some money. You could be playing a game. You could be watching another video, but you know, you're watching me. You know, that means something to me, so I just want to thank you and appreciate you. This week, we're going to be tackling how to win an argument because a lot of y'all are out here arguing with your partners and you're losing the plot, you're losing the message, and all of that, you just not going nowhere. So I'm going to help you get your wheels spinning. Then we're going to talk NFL preseason week 2. And you already know we are in for some Chicago Bears glaze. And then lastly, I saw some stuff on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. It seems there's still this debate about Man of Steel and Superman. I thought that was better than gone and over with because the movie has been out for like a month. But hey, you know what? It's a conversation and your boy like to talk, so we're going to talk about it. So without further ado, let's jump in. Okay. How to win an argument. Relationship. All so different yet so similar. We all know how it goes. It starts off great, fireworks, the butterflies, everything's fun, new, and exciting. Every day is an adventure and every day is sweet until one day y'all don't agree. You feel one way, she feel another, or he, whatever the situation you might have, and the reality is you guys ain't seeing eye to eye. And what was once a happy and blissful experience is now this spiraling toilet of doom. But I'm gonna teach you how to get through every single argument as a winner, and more importantly, to be able to get the best out of you and your partner. Granted, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not prescribing you nothing, but I got what you need. Step 1, you're on the same team. Please don't forget, you guys are on the same side. I know it can be kind of easy to forget when you get mad, but you gotta remember, you gotta stay in the right mindset. You gotta keep your eyes on the prize. And if you're able to keep your eyes on the prize, it's gonna make it that much easier to get through that argument. Don't let the validity of your argument cloud your judgment on the cause and the goal at hand, which is for you guys to be a happy and prosperous couple. Because all couples fight. So the only ones that's gonna get through it is the ones that figure it out. Step 2, yelling doesn't make you right. You have got to stop yelling when you get into an argument. Nothing you're saying is somehow communicated better because you're shouting it. You gotta communicate your issues calmly and compassionately. Because let's face it, do you like it when you make a mistake that genuinely you didn't know you were making and somebody comes to you as if you were doing it on purpose? Nah, it's gonna tick you all the way off. It's gonna make you wanna move all the way on. So have that same level of compassion when you're bringing up your argument. Try to stay calm and state your issues in a way that calmly lets your partner know, like, hey, I'm not turning against you. I still love you. But if you could just change this or do this differently, it'd make both of our lives a lot easier. As I said in the last video, there's only a handful of things in this world that are actually worth yelling about. So if you're finding yourself having more than that, the problem's not everything else. It's you. Step 3, don't highlight the problem. Focus on the solution. Too many times we find ourselves in an argument hyper fixating on trying to convince the other person how what they thought was wrong or how what they did we think was wrong. And not in a constructive way. It's more so in a, again, berating way, in a way that sounds very much so patronizing and is going to make it very difficult for that person to want to communicate with you in a civil manner. So I want you to try doing this instead. Instead of fixating on why what they did was wrong. For example, if you have an issue with, say your partner doesn't take their shoes off when they get in the house and you really want them to leave their shoes at the door, instead of talking about how it is so inconsiderate and how it is, whether that be ignorant, stupid, messy, whatever the case may be, or any number of insults you want to throw in there about leaving the shoes at the door, instead you can just communicate, hey, I know you like to wear your shoes when you come in from outside, but it just leaves too much of a mess when you go around the house. It would help me out a lot if you would just leave your shoes at the door. By saying it that way, we're no longer just fixating on the flaw of the individual. We're now fixating and focusing on the problem at hand and how both of you can, or even if it's just that other person, can make a slight change to just make both of your lives easier. And I guess maybe that's what I meant when I said trying to fixate on the problem. You're not actually fixating on the problem, but you're fixating on the problem with the person. You don't want to fixate with the problem with the person. You want to fixate on the issue at hand, because the enemy is not your partner. The issue or the task or the obstacle at hand is the problem. The problem is an item, it's an event, it's an isolated moment in time. It is not the individual themselves. So by doing this, your partner feels significantly less judged and a lot more supported, and then feel more so encouraged to want to make those changes for you. And that's gonna leave you both happy. Step 4, make sure both parties come to a conclusion. If you really want your relationship or partnership or whatever type of civil union you have to last, you're gonna have to exercise some level of humility. Sure, you could pay them and you could have some sort of monetary trade-off to justify you guys' relationship, but at the end of the day, who wants to just be lived with just because of what it is that they provide? People want to know that you're with them because you love them as a person. And if you want people to love you as a person, that kind of means you shouldn't suck. You guys are two different people that have lived two different walks of life and are now coming together to try to find common ground to make a new path and a new walk of life, which means there's going to be times you guys are competing for what's better for what you guys have in mind for the future. Again, the two of you want the same thing in general, to be happy, to be successful, to be comfortable, but you just have two different visions of how to get there. So that's why it's very important that both sides are heard, both sides are communicated with, so that both sides can get a solution to whatever their gripe be with their side of the argument, conversation, whatever the task at hand is. Everything's not going to be a 50-50 decision where it's just going to come down to you guys agreeing on everything. But if you do it this way, it just makes it a lot easier for you guys to come to unanimous decisions, because both sides feel heard. So you know that whatever decision it is that you came to came from the product of you both speaking your mind. And if you and your partner follow every single one of these tips, you will be finding yourself winning every argument. Because with every argument ending and you two essentially coming closer together because you come up with a solution instead of diving deeper into spiraling the problem, it just gives you that magical euphoric feeling that you guys really can make it to the promised land, which is till death do you part. So let me know what it is that you guys think. Let me know if there are other tips that you have for how to win an argument. Personally, I feel like I got a pretty good list. But if there's something I'm missing, let me know what it is that you think. Leave a like, comment, and we'll see you guys on the next segment. Let's go. We're back. NFL's preseason week 2. Lego. Titans edge out the Falcons. Pretty boring first half with the first points of the game coming from the defense, scoring a pick 6. Second half started to pick up as Tennessee and Atlanta started to march up and down the field, and they were actually able to walk away with a couple of field goals. But ultimately, the Falcons couldn't walk away with the W by being able to tie up the game with a field goal, so Tennessee takes it. Seahawks smack the Chiefs. Sam Darnold looking okay, but he's just, to me, looks like always going to hit himself. So that didn't go away. Granted, it's only the preseason, but damn, the Packers are looking way more impressive than the Chiefs. It's got me feeling a lot better about the Seahawks' depth. Packers beat the Colts. Daniel Jones looking much more impressive this time around in this first quarter. A couple of nice throws and completions. He did have an early fumble, but he was able to recover it. Despite the drives, Jones wasn't able to walk away with 6 though. Then comes Anthony Richardson, who's also looking more impressive this week. Love to see him throwing the ball so in the improved accuracy. I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but he's definitely come a long way than he was last season. He even had a nice escape from a sack and getting himself a first down. And while he didn't throw a touchdown pass, he did leave a touchdown drive. While the Indiana Colts have already chosen Daniel Jones as their starting QB, I think that AR definitely showcased that he's moving in the right direction, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets his job back. Patriots beat the Vikings. Drake made the pass looking good, getting up and down the field with the second drive being a touchdown. Drake, while not like a legit dual threat quarterback, he definitely has some mobility to him. And the kid's got an arm. Wasn't able to see JJ McCarthy play, but I'm sure we'll see glimpses of him next week. Viking backup Sam Howell, the Vikings backup, ended up leading the drives that day, and let's just say he had less than success throwing that pick. Exciting first half with a fizzle out for the second, so hey, Pats win. Dolphins beat the Lions. Pretty boring start with the Lions struggling to get up the field. Miami made it at least a little bit more interesting because they had more consistent receivers. Had a couple of fumbles that they were lucky enough to recover, but they did end up striking iron and getting the touchdown first. And the Lions were able to respond with a touchdown of their own. Tesla having a pretty nice touchdown catch as well. But all in all, both these teams, they showed that they got some pretty nice depth. nice for them for this NFL season. Browns beat the Eagles. I can't lie, Dylan Gabriel, he did his thing. Looked nice, he had several completions, he was throwing some lasers. He did have an interception and a fumble. Technically, it was the running back, but he still led a touchdown drive, and all in all, he still looked impressive. All things considered, I mean, not too much to say for the Eagles. Their depth is looking solid as always, but despite that, they just weren't able to put away the Browns. The QB race only got more interesting, and with them announcing Joe Flacco as their starter and Shedeur still sitting at number 4, I can see that these guys are definitely going to be trying to see what these guys can do throughout the season this year, and by the 2026 season, we'll definitely see either Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel find a home somewhere else. That's just my Texans baby shake the Panthers. CJ Stroud, he was struggling to connect with his receivers throughout the game, but he was able to finally get himself a nice connection with Nico Collins for a 4th and goal touch. CJ Stroud struggled to connect with his receivers, but he was finally able to connect with Nico Collins for a 4th and goal touchdown. Nick Chubb showing even more so why he is, in fact, in the running for a top-tier running back. The Panthers weren't really able to get much of anything going pretty much the entire game. I mean, it's the Panthers, and granted it is the preseason, but again, like I keep saying in these videos, it's just exposing their level of depth, which it ain't that deep, looking pretty shallow. 49ers edge out the Raiders. Brock Purdy playing like he got a point to prove. He went for several throws and completions marching up and down the field. And Geno Smith wasn't doing too bad either. Had a nice little deep connection at Brock Bowers. Max Crosby and the Raiders defense making the Niners look like their run game was trash. Granted, C-Mac wasn't out there, but it was still just a nice performance. Acid Jency also having a couple of hype plays. Probably one of the better preseason watches. I had a lot of fun with this one, so can't wait to see what they do next week and even more so what they do throughout the real season. Rams just barely beat the Chargers. Stetson Bennett looking good in the Rams system. It was nice to see him throw a couple of touchdowns and look pretty confident and very suave inside of that system. He did throw a pick, which certainly didn't help. But all in all, he's a solid backup, especially when we're still kind of in the dark about Matt Stafford's condition. I know that they said that he's back to practice, but again, we still don't really know to what extent this back injury is. On the Chargers side of the ball, we're seeing that Trey Lance, again, proving why he is a solid backup for this Chargers offense. But then on the Chargers side of the ball, we're seeing that Trey Lance again being a solid backup for the Chargers offense. He may be sitting behind Justin Herbert, but you know that if the man goes down, they've got a quarterback that can gun it to him. Even led a touchdown drive for Raheem Sanders to go ahead and score. But a solid preseason game that showed a decent level of depth of the Chargers and the Rams. Bucks beat the Steelers. Mason Rudolph throwing them picks, showing why they need to go ahead and get old man Rodgers. He did redeem himself by coming back and scoring a touchdown, so that cancels it out. But all in all, still, and like everybody else would say, the Steelers' QB room at this moment is much to be desired. Or should I say, doesn't leave much to be desired. Or is it leaves much to be desired? I think it leaves much to be desired because there isn't much to desire. My Suki Dookie Doo babies. Bridgewater coming out of retirement and literally coming from his couch to throwing touchdowns is pretty insane. More so conceptually than literally. Seeing what that school did to that man for supporting a bunch of kids, I don't think that was right, so I think this is just pretty heartwarming. But in terms of the lookout for Shiloh, still not much to see. With the corner position, the Bucks are running thinner and thinner when it comes to their depth, but if Shiloh doesn't show out, I don't know if he's going to be on the roster. Granted, I think he might be there just because they have, a real need for somebody that understands the system, and he's already there and he's been there. Shiloh's just going to have to show up, though. He's going to have to really step up and show out, and I'm sure he's already trying to do that, but Shiloh, whatever it might be, there might be that might be in your bag of tricks that you haven't quite pulled out yet, but bruh, pull it out now. Pull it out, go find something, film something. But we need to see something so you can be able to go ahead and cement yourself in this league as a real threat. Giants slap the Jets. Jackson Dart continuing to emerge as the star that a lot of people saw coming, but I certainly did not. But I'm happy for the man. The man is starting to grow on me, and I'm starting to believe the hype. The swag, the confidence, the play style. He just got it. Again, I still think that the Giants should have selected Shedeur, but clearly they didn't make a bad choice by getting Jackson. After impressive week 1 performance, Justin Field didn't really get much going this week. I mean, you could literally see the disappointment in his eyes for not being able to take his team where he thought he should have. This is still just a preseason, but we can only hope that this week was just a hiccup and not a peak of the old Justin Field starting to rear its head. Ravens raid the Cowboys. Cooper Rush taking advantage of his old Cowboy mates. It's funny, this guy really thought that this man was better than Dak Prescott. But with his 2 interceptions to his 1 touchdown, I don't think necessarily Dallas is missing him, but they sure ain't happy with his replacement. Joe Milton connected on a couple of deep passes, which is impressive, but all in all, my man's was inaccurate and inefficient. But yeah, I mean, the Cowboys' depth is looking absolutely atrocious, and you must know that if Dak goes down again, you guys are once again doomed to miss another playoff. Broncos slap the Cardinals. The Broncos depth chart to me just got a massive upgrade. Not that it's changed, but in terms of perception wise, because last week wasn't bad, but just this week they might have had a much better performance. Granted, we didn't see Bo play, but we did see, what's his name? Jarrett Stidham? Yeah, he played his ass off. 16 for 23, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Stidham to me, I feel, is kind of like Trey Lance or Tyson Bagent, which is that, yeah, they're backup quarterbacks, but you know that if the starter were to go down, you can have a sigh of relief because they've got this shit covered. It was extremely rudimentary and unpolished, and I get it. I'm an armchair coach, but not a good showcasing for Arizona's depth. Saints tied with the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence struggled a bit, but his last drive was pretty impressive. He was poised and patient. He even had a pretty nice escape, but he got himself a first down. Had himself a nice little touchdown drive, and I'm still waiting to see this generational talent that people are saying, but the kid's clearly got a pretty bright future, and I don't think that Florida should give up on him yet. Duval. Meanwhile, the chaos in New Orleans continues. Tyler Shuck was trying his darndest to make something happen. I feel bad for the guy because I feel like he was fairly accurate. His receivers just couldn't quite pull it down. I can't tell if it's bad chemistry or what, but they just were not connected. No turnovers, no touchdowns. Meanwhile, Spencer Rattler clearly heard the criticism because my man's went out there and played with a chip on his shoulder. He was able to rack up 200 yards in 2 quarters. He did throw a pick 6, which is going to be costly, but he's playing his heart out to get that starting job. And we're almost positive Spencer's got it. Bears smacked the shit out of the Bills. Bear down. Everyone can just fuck up about Caleb Williams. Up. It was one touch, it was one drive, it's the preseason. Bro, shut up. Because I guarantee you, if it took him more than that one drive, everybody would say, oh, Caleb is struggling, Caleb don't know what he's doing, the Bears should have kept Justin Fields. My man's walked on the field to the end zone and went to go have a seat. Second drive was stopped short, I'll admit, but all in all, he looks much more impressive than Ben Johnson. Tyson Bagent also looked competent out there leading a couple of touchdown drives. Tyson Bagent even looked pretty nice out there leading a touchdown drive. He even had a nice escape leading to a completion, so I love to see it. The Bills clearly underestimated the Bears playing with their secondary quarterback. That or they just didn't feel the need for their starters to play. But the Bills struggled against the Bears offense and defense the entire game. The Bills weren't even to get so much as a field goal on there. Bears continuing to show that they're coming back 2025 with a reckoning, so I cannot wait to see it, and I can't wait to see you guys eat all them words. CW for the win. And I ain't talking about the Flash. Bear down. Bengals put belt to ass on the Commanders. I'm playing. But seriously, either the Commanders defense looked really good or the Bengals offense is really trash, because that was a pretty poor display by the Bengals O-line. Joe Burrow was out there running for his life, and don't get me wrong, there was nothing wrong with Joe Burrow's play. He was just as accurate, just as potent with his arm as possible, but he just had no protection, running around in circles like, what? They were able to get a pass interference call that got them up to about the 10-inch line. And you can tell that Joe, after that very frustrating second drive, that he was like, all right, man, put me back out there because these folks are going to be saying something's wrong with me, and I need to let these people know I'm still him. But yeah, the Bengals defense? Holy shit, they're atrocious. The D-line is just clumsy and lacks any type of presence, like at all. The corners all missed their tackles. Linebackers more like line lackers, line slackers, line snackers, because they are not backing nothing. And they're still debating paying Trey. You got almost $100 million on the offensive side of the ball, but you out here struggling to put any money in your defense, and you're wondering why you can't make the playoffs. But who am I? I'm just the guy. And I want to hear what you think. Let me know what it is that you thought about this NFL preseason week. Do you think that the Bears are going to be going on a run? Are you excited to be able to see what these teams do next week? I am super pumped for this 2025 season, but more importantly, I'm pumped to hear what it is that you guys think. So leave a comment, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we will talk to you guys next week. Man, I thought we were done with this. But the internet never ceases to amaze me. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that James Gunn has taken over DC Studios. And there's a section of the fan base that isn't too happy about it. Now I get it. I was a fan of Zack Snyder and the Man of Steel movie. But we gotta understand that there comes a point where trying to bash the other movies and whatnot, it's not helping anybody. In fact, it's actually hurting. Y'all gonna make it to where we not gonna get nothing. But that aside, I do think that there's something to the question of which one's better. So let's ask it. Which one's better, Man of Steel or 2025 Superman? I'm not going to give a play-by-play review of the movies because Man of Steel is over a decade old and James Gunn's Superman, I already gave that a review. If you want to see it, you can go ahead and check the link down in the description. But let's jump into which one's better. Now for this, I'm going to be judging by portrayal accuracy, performance, story, characters, visuals, and then we'll make a final conclusion. And remember, this is just my opinion, so if you feel differently, please let me know what you think in the comments. Now, starting off with the portrayals of Superman, this one's interesting. Henry Cavill looks like you plucked Clark Kent straight out of a comic book. I mean, the guy legitimately looks like he was born to play Superman. He's powerful, he's invulnerable, he's stoic, he's, a super badass, but he's not a superhero. The problem is just that Superman is in this complex of being a god amongst men. It almost feels like he's so stoic and he's so dominant that he's not allowed to care about saving people. I mean, sure, he'll save Lois, but other than his teammates and Lois, who else does he care about? Superman several times puts the fight and the damage of the city, to be more accurate, Superman puts the civilians and the damage of the city secondary to whoever his opponent is. He's just gonna box it out, which is visually really cool, but in terms of the actual character of Superman, it's not really doing any favors because, again, he's supposed to be the symbol of hope. And it ain't too much hope when Superman's in town. In fact, if I was living in the world where Superman is, I'd be terrified. Because I know if he's fighting, this whole city is coming down. David Corn says Superman is a little bit interesting, though. Visually, he's a bit awkward. I mean, the suit definitely doesn't help. Kind of feels like he's got a bit of a bobblehead. But the one thing that I gotta give him credit on that they nailed is that Superman is trying to save everybody, every living thing. And what's just kind of communicated with the character is that he cares about everybody. Everybody, to the point where it is hokey, and yes, it is, super idealistic, but that's the point. Superman is allowed to have this level of delusion of being able to save everybody because he compared to everybody else that he is around, he is the only person close enough to be able to do all of these things because he's Superman. That's what he represents. So I think just in terms of portrayal, I got to give that one up to James Gunn. I mean, they got it. In terms of performances, I think that both of them had their strengths and their weaknesses. I think that Man of Steel is going for more of this melancholic, dramatic movie where you feel this you feel this mood where you see and you feel the sense of dread and this weight of the plot, which is basically in-esque kind of holding up Clark Kent Kal-El as like Earth's Messiah in a sense, you know what I mean? But well, obviously not as hopeful as I would like for Superman. I mean, the sense of dread and drama, it definitely is. And you feel it throughout the movie. While not as hopeful as obviously I would like, it definitely, you felt the sense of drama. You felt the sense of this awakening and this rising of this grand person. You can, especially with that first flight, epic. But again, the constant sense of dread, because everyone is kind of all in that same dark gray blue space, everyone is kind of in this exact same emotion, which is either shocked, angry, or upset. I don't think that there's more than 2 scenes where people are smiling, and I think that both of them are Superman. But it's, I like it, but performance-wise, there's not a whole lot of range here. Super Sweat, on the other hand, was a little bit different because they obviously did not devote as much time to the plot in terms of focus, so that is definitely a negative. But for what they did show, which was being able to show what I can only imagine is in as least confusing as possible, as much of the world they can show and how much has been established that can make sense within the plot of this movie, I think they did a very, very good job. The characterizations, the plot, the way that the characters interacted with each other, it felt very, very lived in, and there was ranges to their emotions. They were happy, they were mad, they were sad, they were scared. It just, you even though it was A bit hokey because obviously it's trying to be more comic booky. What I give it so much leeway because of how developed and how unique of a take it is. Because for as comic accurate as the movie is, you can't help but feel that it feels new. And that's something that's been missing in this superhero game, which is so crazy because Superman is the first superhero. I'm giving it to Gunn also. Next is the story because, again, they both have their strengths and their weaknesses. Man of Steel's story is, again, Clark Kent, Kal-El, trying to go through his motions of being a god amongst men and figuring out whether or not he wants to be the hero of Earth. Man of Steel was, again, it was much darker, much grittier. It was just kind of trying to go during that deconstruction of the superhero era during the 2010s where, you know, everything had to be edgier to make superheroes be more serious when you don't really need to do that. You just need to tell a good story. Flow of the story and the world and the way that the plot progressed, the scaling and just the overall dominance of Superman. Like, if you want that darker tone, that more serious Superman, look no further because this is your guy. James Gunn's Superman follows Superman in his early years of his career when he is basically facing his first crushing defeat and gets his ass kicked in front of the whole world. Superman similarly needs to find his place in the world, except he's trying to decipher between his original origins or his earthly origins and deciphering between the two. The movie is fast paced and we get lots and lots of Superman. It's comedic and it's bright and it just gives enough of Superman in terms of softening him up to not make him entirely goofy. We kind of tend to jump scene to scene with very little background, so we're just kind of jumping around. And as long as you're along for the ride, you can pretty much get with it. But yeah, for classic Superman fans, I can't see how it is you're upset. So honestly, really, this one, it just comes down to preferences, so I'm just going to give this up as a tie. Characters hands down has got to go to Superman 2025. Whereas again, Man of Steel kept up its sense of dread, trying to really build up this drama of the destruction of the planet. Again, it just left a lot of the characters feeling pretty one note to me. And not that that's a bad thing, but it's just that you have to really rely on that note, which it does well. But there are other movies that have this sense of dread and are able to have a bigger payoff that do it better. Again, not a problem with the movie. Love Man of Steel. But that being the case, Superman 2025, the characters, they have a lot more life. There's a lot more range to their emotions. Again, like I said earlier, they're happy, sad, mad, afraid. You feel all of those emotions throughout the movie because, again, you're on this roller coaster. You have so many characters, and yes, you don't get to spend a whole lot of time with them. But from what you get to see, you get enough to say, I want more of these guys. The Man of Steel leaves you wanting exactly that. The Man of Steel. Not everybody else. Visuals are an interesting category because they're so tonally different, they're kind of hard to compare. Because again, I think that they both executed the visuals well. I think that Superman 2025 was very, very bright, very, very colorful, very vibrant. It fit with the type of action that they showed, very dramatic camera angles. Again, it felt very comic-y, very dramatic and toned up. Superman from the Man of Steel, however, is a lot more tonally dark. So there's a lot more blues and grays. There's a lot more dark shots. The entirety of the third act, with the exception of the part where they're fighting against the army and whatnot, is this massive battle in this grayed out city because of all of the destruction. So comparing the visuals here is kind of like comparing like a dark thriller to a comedic action movie. It's just kind of hard to say which one's better because they're trying to achieve such different things. Both of them pretty awesome set pieces, pretty awesome fights. They had really interesting characters that you wanted to, at the very least, if nothing else, wanted to see how it would match up, how Superman would match up with these characters. With Superman, he taking more of the ass whoopings than giving the ass whoopings, but still fun to see. But if you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say the Man of Steel. Look at. I know that I've been giving Superman 2025 a lot of credit, but visually, the suit, the force, and the power of Man of Steel, the whole third act is just a ride. And I think that it's pretty hard to compare when it comes to the third act of the Superman movie. Especially as a Dragon Ball fan, like, I think that's the closest to us getting a live action Dragon Ball fight. Hopefully I'm proven wrong. I would love to see a live action Dragon Ball movie done well in my lifetime, but you know what? We'll see what happens. But yeah, my vote goes to Man of Steel. So if you add it all up, in my opinion, Superman 2025 is better. But honestly, guys, it really shouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, you can like both movies. And guess what? You could have both movies be successful in their own right, and we can all just respect the fact that we all have different opinions, but there's no reason for us to be coming at each other's throats, because at the end of the day, we're all fans of Superman, DC, and these products that they're producing. Can't wait to see what the future holds. If you guys like this video, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what it is that you thought, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Hey guys, it's Tony with the TD World. Thanks for checking out this video. Remember, don't run, don't hide, don't be shy. Just like, comment, please subscribe. See you next time.
For me dealing with the stress, for me dealing with the pain, trying to find a way.